Good afternoon, everyone. Cooking with Care, Donabe done right, will begin in 5 minutes. If you have any technical difficulties or questions, please send the staff a message in the chat. Otherwise, we'll get started in about 5 minutes. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Cooking with Care, Donabe Done Right, presented in partnership between Keiro and Japanese American Cultural and Community Center. My name is Kent Marume, Program Manager at Keiro, and Keiro is grateful to partner with JACCC on this program as we bridge not only our areas of expertise, but also our audiences. So thank you all for joining us today. The goal for this three-part series, Cooking with Care, is to provide free culinary demonstrations that feature nutritious and simple Japanese meals for aging parents or care recipients. We hope that by the end of this series that you feel more confident in preparing at least 3, maybe new, meals for your loved ones. Without further ado, I want to introduce Jane Matsumoto, Director of Culinary Arts at JACCC, who works here at the TWCCC. Jane will be teaching us how to prepare today's dish, Donabe. And Jane, please tell us more about the space here at JACCC.
Sure. First of all, Happy New Year, everyone. For those watching from Southern California, isn't today a perfect day to make something like a donabe dish? Our menu today is chicken mizutaki. But just to give you a little information about the TWCCC, that stands for Toshizo Watanabe Culinary Cultural Center. And this was built several years ago. In fact, it was ready to open just as COVID struck. So for several years, this beautiful space was unable to be fully opened, but we spent 2022 slowly emerging. We feel very, very lucky to have an event space that has 2 walls that completely open up so that indoor, outdoor kind of environment enabled us to carefully and cautiously invite people back to enjoy this space. And we're standing in a commercial kitchen where our catering and our chef in residence, Chris Ono, prepares his meals. And we also use it for cooking demonstrations and classes just like this. So thank you.
Thanks, Jane. So Jane wants to share a donabe dish with you all today. So Jane, please tell us about this household dish and maybe a little bit more about what we're cooking today. Yeah.
Well, you know, in Japan and in Japanese households, chicken mizutaki is an everyday dish that's made, particularly in the winter time. It's easy to prepare. One of the things that I find is the flexibility with which you can prepare this for loved ones. So traditionally, mizutaki means to be prepared in water. We use a donabe dish. If you don't have a donabe, certainly a Le Creuset kind of pot or any kind of stew pot would be perfectly okay as well. But we use it in the vessel as a means to coddle the food. And chicken being the one that would take longest to prepare, we can use whole chicken. That's generally the traditional historic way in which chicken mizutaki was prepared. But today, because we know that there are preferences to parts of the chicken, or most importantly, time savings for caregivers or those making the meal, and also for loved ones who may or may not be able to work through bone and big meaty pieces, I'll be showing you what you can do with this very, very versatile donabe dish.
Sounds good. Let's get started.
Okay, so I think what I'd like to really start with is to explain these different parts or types of chicken. Can everyone see this? I guess you can.
Before we get started with that,
yeah.
Lauren also put in the chat for everyone, we have the recipe for today. You can access it through the chat, and you can look at it and follow along while we're going through the recipe today as well. So,
okay, so let's start by talking about the most basic ingredient, which is chicken. And as I mentioned, a whole chicken is traditionally used, and for expediency, I've already cut the whole chicken up, but all the parts of the chicken are made into bite-sized pieces so that they cook easily in the pot. Another alternative, though, is using, for example, parts of chicken. And something that's quite popular is thighs. A lot of people prefer dark meat over white meat. And you can buy these with and without skin, deboned or with bone. But this is one option for those who may like darker cut meat. And then I've also thought it would be good to show you what you can do, particularly with the white breast meat of chicken for those who may have or want tender pieces of chicken. And in particular, if you're in a rush and want to cook things quickly. So I'm going to explain in the cutting part. If you like skin, use skin. If you don't want to, if you prefer not to have skin, you can take the skin off. But I think it's most expedient to cut the chicken into not bite size. You don't want the chicken to fall apart in the donabe. So you're going to make them into pieces that can easily be fetched from the donabe itself.
And which slice of chicken are you using?
This is the thigh.
Thigh. Okay.
Boneless with skin thigh. And we'll use a little bit of that, and then I'll also show you what we do with the bone-in chicken. So we have our pot going now, and shall we pull this
Sure.
over? Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll add the several pieces of thigh just to show you the difference between cooking with dark meat and cooking with white meat, just the white meat. We'll put this aside for a second. And I mentioned for those who may have difficulty in chewing or need softer food or prefer white meat, this is the breast of chicken. And I've sliced these really thin. And you'll see that it cooks very quickly in here. Now, in fact, I'm putting this in the broth right now, but there are vegetables that also take a little time to cook. In fact, may take even longer than very thinly cut chicken. So I'm going to first cut the chicken to have it ready to sequence when we need to put it in. But I just want to show you in slicing a breast meat of chicken, you could make it as thin as you like, as thick as you like. But the whole idea is that this chicken is very, very easy for those who have chewing or problems in biting into big pieces of meat. And you can make that even smaller. You don't want to make it too small because, like I said, you don't want to lose the chicken in the donabe itself.
Looks like you're slicing sashimi over there.
It really is almost just, I would use a sashimi knife if I were doing this. Okay, now we'll put this aside too. And why don't we take and move this so we can get the donabe pot. Here we go. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Can you see this in the camera? Let's get this boiling. So we'll go back to my favorite topic, dashi. For those who have watched the series and heard me talk about dashi, sorry to sound like a broken record, but the basis of Japanese food is good dashi. And that is how we avoid over seasoning, salting, putting excessive soy sauce and other condiments into our dishes. And I want to mention one of our viewers here, Barbara, my good friend, told me that she actually took that advice for her oshogatsu cooking.
Oh.
And she was able to appreciate the flavor of the dashi over flavoring it with shoyu.
Nice.
So I hope that that resonates with some of the others of you. You could see this broth was made with a piece of kombu, and I put in, for convenience, a very available dashi pack that we've talked about before on this program. It looks like tea bags. And it's filled with natural dashi and provides an easy means by which to make the basis of the broth. And now we go to the vegetable side. So let's move this out of the way also.
Real quick, as we transition to the vegetables, I've had many questions about this particular dashi in the
Yes.
pack. Now I know this one you picked up in Japan.
Right, right.
Do you know if there's one in like in America at Nijiya or Modified
Yes.
that people can
Yes.
get? Yeah.
It's all, if you go to any of the markets, just go to the section where the katsuo bushi or the shaved katsuo flakes are
Bon-
sold.
Bonito flakes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you will see packs of these that are prepackaged, and use one of those. It's quite convenient. There's a variety of them.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the vegetables that take the longest time, right? So now if you really want to know, this white meat that I put in there is already done. And Mizutaki, you want to use a little strainer, but see the white meat here? This is done already. You don't want to keep it in here to overboil it.
Mhm.
So this is just to show you how quickly
Sure.
this cooks. I'm gonna put those out. Now, the thigh meat is gonna take a little bit more time.
Mhm.
So we'll keep those in. And also, for expediency, I went ahead and pre-cooked the whole pieces of chicken, but I'm gonna put that back in right now. To finish the dish.
As you're doing that, could you tell us a little bit about your Donabe pot today and
Yeah,
like how many cups it could take of
this one will probably make I would say 10 cups of water can fit in here.
oh, okay.
I chose this pot for two reasons. One, it is a convenient size. It's not the largest pot I
Mhm.
have. It's also not the smallest.
Mm.
So if you just want to cook for yourself or a loved one, there are donabe that are significantly smaller than this.
Mm.
And that's very easy to use at home as well. Donabe require pre-seasoning when you first buy it, when it's brand new. You just make a little okayu or gruel, rice gruel in there to season it, and then it's ready to go. And I chose this because the inside is also white.
Oh,
I have donabes that are black
sure.
ceramic,
Yeah.
but I thought for being able to have
Yeah.
our viewers
Uh-huh.
be able to see what's in the pot.
Absolutely.
It's
But also maybe
easier.
preparation wise and cooking wise, you can see through.
Yes.
Oh, I never
So-
would have thought about that.
Okay, so now what's gonna take time to cook would be, I love daikon. You don't have to use daikon in here. Let's go through what I have here anyway. So I'm gonna put the daikon in because I want those to start cooking. And then I'll hold this up. If you can see, I've cut carrots in 3 different ways, and I'm gonna talk about why I did that. There's mushrooms. You can use shiitake mushrooms. Here's enoki, any kind of mushrooms that you like. I did this because it's quick. Napa. Many of you are used to seeing the regular hakusai green napa, but more recently, they've started to carry this beautiful red napa. And so I just did it because it's colorful.
Sure. Where'd you find that?
Nijiya.
Really?
And then, of course, tofu is optional, but I always like to have tofu in my mizutaki. And then onions. This is Japanese negi, but you can use brown onions if you like. It just is a really nice flavor. We'll put that in next.
And that's like the white parts of the negi.
Yes. Well, the Tokyo negi, generally 3/4 of the the vegetable itself is white. Maybe you can bring the negi for me. I'll show the audience. And the next thing I'll put in are the mushrooms. So break up your enoki, but don't string them out too thin. You want them in clusters.
I actually have a question about enoki.
Yes.
So when I buy it at the store,
Yes.
it comes in a plastic wrap and it has
Uh-huh.
that stuff at the bottom.
Yes.
Do you slice that? Like you pull out of the pack and slice it?
And
That's-
slice it all,
okay.
yeah.
And then do you rinse it or anything after that? Or
No.
leave it as
I,
is.
if I was gonna put it in a salad though, I would wash it. Yeah, if I was eating it raw.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, this is your Tokyo negi. This is the whole thing. I took the end off. But as you can see, it's mostly, like not quite a leek and
Mhm.
not quite a green onion.
Mhm.
So you can use brown onion, green onion, it just adds flavor. I'm gonna put my tofu in now too, because I like to have nice warm tofu. And I want to talk a little bit about the carrots. So traditionally, what you would do would most likely cut it like this. This is cut at a diagonal and it's convenient. So we'll put those in there. But if you are kind of pressed for time, everybody knows that matchsticks are a very convenient way to cut carrots too. And you've likely seen these shapes, right? There's a typical Japanese matchstick cut. You could put that in there, but I find that in a donabe dish, these kind of get lost and you can't really taste it as well as you can these bigger pieces. But if you're in a rush, tofu doesn't have to take that long to cook. Your white meat of chicken is going to cook in a couple of minutes. You don't want to wait 15-20 minutes for your carrots to cook. This is another very convenient way to have colorful and convenient and quick way to put carrots into your donabe. You slice it with the vegetable slicer and they're thin, right? And so they cook very quickly and it's so tasty. So I like to do that when I'm in a rush. And this will cook up right in here. Now we'll put in our last of the mushroom.
Wish you folks could smell this at home. It smells pretty good. And this is the dashi that I'm smelling right now.
Yes. And we're gonna save the napa to the end because that will cook so quickly.
Right.
So let's put this on low. And while we just let it sit like this for a little bit. We're going to next make our optional dipping sauces. So I suggested two types, and that's because some people may really have restrictions with sodium, and you want to avoid too much shoyu or soy sauce. So if you don't have a mortar and pestle at home, this is a typical Japanese suribachi. You can buy pre-ground sesame seeds now, or you can use whatever you have convenient at home. And I toasted this. I pre-toasted this because it gives it brings out the nuttier flavor, and you don't want to grind it all the way into a paste. Now, some people also use tahini, and you can add tahini in here too if you like. But you just give it a nice, you could smell that, can't you?
I can smell it. Yeah. Wow.
So this is, and if you have your recipe out, then it calls
Yeah.
for,
Page 2 and 3.
yep, let's do that. There's sake. What else does it need? Show you the ponzu.
Oh,
We'll talk about the ponzu.
Sake, ponzu, miso,
Miso.
neutral oil,
Yeah, and this is our sesame neutral oil.
brown sugar, rice vinegar.
Right. Okay. This is our miso. And
And you mentioned this before, I just want to reiterate, I think having the mortar and pestle is an added bonus on top, but for
Right.
folks who maybe don't have this, or maybe don't have the time to do this at home, you do have options out there. The store does sell sesame seeds in this way, and simply,
and you can buy the dressing. By the way, look for the goma dressing, for it says goma dressing for shabu shabu. But if you make it at home, it's kind of fun. And while you're waiting for your mizutaki to cook up,
yeah,
this is a great way to just enjoy a really fresh and yummy sauce. So try it. It's not hard.
wow.
See that?
I mean, I personally buy the one from the QP brand one from Costco.
Uh-huh.
I love it, but
Uh-huh.
this, I know this is gonna taste, it's gonna have like the love in it because you're grinding the sesame seeds.
So that's one of our sauces, right?
Okay.
The other one we talked about was the ponzu. Now, for those who are in a rush, you can use this perfectly fine. And available everywhere these days. So many Western recipes talk about ponzu.
Mhm.
I like to make my sauce, dipping sauce, a little bit more uniquely than just ponzu,
Mm.
straight ponzu.
Mhm.
So what I do is I put in oroshi. This is just grated radish, daikon. So let's see, why don't we show them the daikon? And I probably this is a little bit more than the amount that's in the recipe. So if you have a piece of daikon about 2-3 inches like this, very convenient to just quickly grate it. And if you're cooking for a crowd, however, my mother always said that I was cheating, but I would cut the daikon, peeled daikon, and I would put it into my kusanar to food process.
Really? Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's one way to do it. I want to circle back real quick. You
Mhm.
said 2 to 3 inches of a daikon about this size is maybe 1/4 cup according to the recipe.
Yes.
Okay.
And we used just a little bit more. And here is our green onion. I like to put green onion in here. And shoyu. Now shoyu is the trick. We can use low sodium shoyu. You can use regular shoyu. And you can use very little shoyu if you need to. And this is what the beauty of this ponzu sauce is. So I'm not going to put a lot. This is probably about a 1/4 cup for all that daikon. And need to cut the lemon. The key to a good ponzu sauce is lemon. And if you have access to Meyer lemon, that would be outstanding. This is a wonderful Meyer lemon that we happen to have. And great to just squeeze it directly into the what happened to my little, yeah, thank you. This is my little handy strainer. It catches all the lemon
Let's do
seeds.
it under this camera so people.
Okay. There we go.
So this is like a spoon with like holes in it to catch
Yeah.
all the seeds.
And you could do it with a strainer, or you could do it, or you could just, a lot of people would probably just squeeze their lemons separately, but it avoids having one more dirty thing.
Sure.
And some people like really citrusy, like me. Other people prefer not so citrusy. It's kind of up to your taste. I would start slow and see how half a lemon might taste to a 1/4 cup of the oroshi. this is double the daikon, so I put in a little bit more lemon.
And
Now-
for folks at home, if you have any questions about the steps, if you need us to slow down, or if you're able to keep up, just let us know. We have the chat open for questions or for thoughts or comments.
Now we just mix it. And if it feels to you like, oh man, this is a little bit too much,
Too tart.
has too much shoyu,
Mm.
the way we cut it is straight osu, the Japanese unseasoned rice vinegar goes right in here. And the other way to cut it, I think this is sake, right?
Oh,
So you can put rice vinegar right in here to make it, and that will really definitely make it more citrusy. But the other thing that we would do with this is to put in the delicious broth from the actual mizutaki itself. And that really would enable you to dilute what might be too strong. So rather than put it into the master bowl like this, you serve it and let the individuals dilute it with the sauce to suit their diet.
sure.
So people who like tart and people who like shoyu could have it stronger. Those who have to be more observant can use this to filter the amount of shoyu that's in here. So see how easy those two sauces were. I'm going to put in a little bit of sesame oil into our, not too much. And that's optional, by the way. This is optional for your sauce.
Wow.
So there we go. This is all done. Doesn't that look great?
Smells really good.
Okay, now let's go back to our mizutaki. Here we go. Now everything in here is cooked, so let's do the final touches. And we'll put in our hard part of the napa first. Remember when we made our okazu dish, we had mentioned about the taking the center core. We do the same thing for a donabe dish as well. We want to make sure that we put the hard part in. Let's get this kind of boiling. Our meat's ready. Our broth is all done, and all we're gonna put is the last of this vegetable.
Now, typically you would have this with a bowl of rice, right?
Yes, a bowl of rice, and while we wait for the water to boil, we can get our service plates out. So that when this gets ready, the way I would serve this is, maybe you can have one bowl, if you want to try, one bowl for the ponzu and one bowl for the sesame. You can, or if you prefer one or the other, that's up to you. But why don't we serve a little bit? So I will put the sesame dipping sauce right in here. And here again, if this seems to be a little bit too strong, then you can add your soup to it. And here comes our pots boiling. It's just perfect timing. And this is for, look at that.
I never would have thought about putting grated daikon in the ponzu sauce.
Wait until you taste it.
Okay.
It is so good. And you know what? For people who like, for those who like spice, red chili is really good to put in here too. Chili flakes. And togarashi, you could do that. And put all of our, oops, there we go. What a colorful dish.
Yeah.
Doesn't that look just so yummy for tonight's blustery dinner? Okay, folks. Bon appetit. This is ready to roll. Now you're wondering, how am I ever gonna, what am I supposed to do with this? You might want to invest in a little soup scooper. And there's two ways to do it. I like to always have a little side dish so that you can get your ingredients and put it right here on your dish and select what you like. And some people have some preferences, you know, maybe you don't like carrots, or maybe you don't like tofu, or maybe you don't care for mushrooms. Everyone can get what they like. And then you might be able to try dipping sauces for different things. Now, here's a white meat of chicken and a dark meat of chicken. But once again, if you were cooking the white meat of chicken for a loved one, this is when you would do it right here. Because the water is boiling.
Yeah.
And it's almost like beef shabu shabu.
Oh.
The meat, the chicken slice is so thin, you don't want to leave it in there to boil it up.
Yeah.
Because it'll get so dry. And that's it. This is our, let's try it.
I was under the assumption we were gonna put it in like a bowl, but it looks like presentation wise, this looks really nice as it's on the plate like this. So.
Yep. It looks just like your donabe. And now you take this and you can put it into
Dipping sauce.
this dipping sauce or this dipping sauce, and
And a chawan in your left
and-
hand.
exactly. We're ready to eat.
All right.
That was pretty fast.
That
right?
was fast, yeah. So that was the dish. If folks have questions, please put them in the chat. We're happy to stick around and answer any questions that you might have. But you know, Jane, maybe if you want to talk a little bit more about plating or a little bit more about the
Sure.
donabe.
I would love to talk about plating because that's very important in Japanese food, is
Sure.
the aesthetic. So, you know, it would have been nice to have bright green too. So if you prefer not to have like hakusai, you can use, right now, there's a Japanese dish, it's kind of like a spinach called komatsuna. And there's also spinach, baby bok choy. I love mizuna. Any one of those greens are perfectly good, but just for cooking and plating purposes, just be mindful of cooking time. And then we always want to think about the color. So let's see if this carrot actually sliced this way, the thicker way, it actually cooked up now.
Okay.
But you know, as I mentioned, if you're in a rush and you want to just put everything in at one time and not stage it, like, you know, we spent some time to make the sauce, then the strips are the way to go.
I see.
And then I always like to be mindful of what the plate looks like. So being able to attractively put it into a platter like this, and here's our daikon too. Okay. So it's kind of pretty, right? It's got color, it's got texture, it's got, and here, in fact, I mentioned how the matchsticks can get lost. And I think you can find them, but to me, the most convenient way to cook the carrots is either this shape, or if you're in a rush, to actually make them into the ribbons. Like
So we did get a question, Jane.
Okay,
Nancy is asking the difference between donabe and sukiyaki.
okay. Sukiyaki is, you can make sukiyaki in a donabe, by the way. Donabe is just in reference to the ceramic pot. And that's all donabe means. So you can make shabu shabu in a donabe. You can make rice, just white rice in a donabe, miso soup. anything could be made in this pot because it's safe to have over an open flame. And many of the donabes can also be used dry heat like an oven. Sukiyaki, by the way, is the name of a beef dish that's cooked stovetop and historically was made with a cast iron pan. You know, if you think about sukiyaki restaurants, it's generally a black cast iron pan. And they use the fat of the beef to oil and season the bottom of the cast iron pan.
Interesting.
And then the sauce is cooked into the sukiyaki.
Right.
So you actually season your vegetables like shungiku. In fact, you could use shungiku in here too, in the mizutaki too. But shungiku is the standard bitter green for sukiyaki because that offsets the sweetness of the meat. Because sukiyaki is made with sugar.
Right.
It's sugar and shoyu
Right.
and the fat of the beef. And then shirataki and that's sukiyaki and onion. So sukiyaki is eaten also with a raw egg. If you want to try making sukiyaki in a donabe, it would work, but two different kinds of concepts. One is a name of a beef dish, sukiyaki. Donabe just simply refers to the type of pot.
Okay, thanks. And thank you, Nancy, for the question. Jessica asks, would marukome organic miso powder with bonito and kelp dashi work?
Sure. What was the first one?
Marukome organic miso powder?
Yes, you can use organic miso powder because that would flavor the dashi really well. It would give you a very earthy dashi instead of more the fish based. It would give you more of the mushroom flavor, and you're going to get some of that mushroom flavor from the actual fresh mushrooms too. So, for those who are, by the way, I should also mention those who prefer not to have protein. This is fantastic with just vegetables. You can put way more of the cabbage. You could put a whole block of tofu instead of the protein, and then you could load it up with mushrooms. And you can use a variety of these greens I talked about. And it would be fantastic with either the ponzu with the oroshi and with the sesame miso dressing.
I have my motai radar going off. What would you do with the soup base?
Okay, so I'm so glad you asked that because I wasn't sure we would have time to do this, but in my family and as is customary in Japan, you would take the broth, and there's several things you could do. Many people will put udon.
Okay.
So have you folks maybe seen the frozen udon noodles?
Yes.
They take like seconds.
Yeah.
So you could put that in this broth. Another thing is to put your leftover rice. And you could crack an egg in it. I love that. My dad used to do that. He would take the leftover ponzu with the oroshi, put in the cold rice, chop up more green onions, crack an egg, and put it in the broth. That is killer food. It's so good. Let's see. Some people like to put mochi in here at the end. So if that's your
we're talking like komochi, the base of mochi. Okay.
You could drop it in here and it'll just melt. And another thing you could do with this broth is maybe in Japanese restaurants, you've seen the bamboo. It looks like a little bamboo that's shaved off at an angle. You fill it with ground chicken. and you make chicken balls and you drop it into the pot
Oh,
at the end.
interesting.
So all kinds of things you could do with the
Yeah,
broth
yeah.
because it is quite rich.
Yeah, I mean, so Rosemary had asked what kind of noodles you might want to put in the misutaki. So you said udon noodles.
We don't.
Any
but
other kind of noodles?
there's nothing wrong with soba, anything.
Any-
Whatever. I just mentioned the udon because it comes in those already cooked frozen
Right.
packs. So you don't have to boil the noodle, you just, and it is so good.
Yeah.
The frozen ones are really good.
They're like
so.
$5 at Marukai.
For a
Ro-
pack.
Rosemary had also asked, could you use the same dashi, maybe soup base for oden?
Well, oden is a little bit different. So you could start it off this way, but oden has meating in the dashi. So you would make your basic katsuo kombu dashi, or for vegetarians, if they wanted to make, I don't know if there is such a thing as a vegetarian oden, because oden is made from fish cakes.
Right.
But for those who like the traditional oden, it's not this particular broth. You started off the same way with the kombu and katsuobushi, and then you season it with mirin and a little bit of usukuchi shoyu. Usukuchi is not to be mistaken with low sodium shoyu. Usukuchi is light colored. So if you hold the two up in a small container, the usukuchi is light and very transparent.
Interesting. Is it like pasteurized differently or something?
It just has less whatever causes a soy to ferment. I don't know if they take it out when it's
Koji?
still young.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, maybe
You
they don't.
ferment it for less.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
it's saltier.
Really?
Yes.
Lighter color, but saltier.
Saltier. That's the reason why people do get the low sodium mixed up with usukuchi, but they're two completely different shoyu. And then, of course, the third shoyu is the very heavy shoyu that some people use for like sashimi.
Right. Yeah.
And well, in Japan, they do so many things, but they also flavor shoyu with the big katsuo sticks.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even the flakes.
So Rosemary also said maybe we can do oden next time.
Okay. Oden is one of my favorite foods. I have to tell you, I love oden with hampen. And I noticed that a lot of Japanese Americans have never heard of, much less tasted hampen.
I don't think I've ever had that. Or what is that for the audience at home?
It is a square shaped, and it is made from a fish base, but it's really fluffy, and my kids used to call it sponge because it's white and square, and it comes in a package.
I have had that. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very tasty.
Right. Oh, I thought it was tofu. Oh.
Yeah, oden is another wonderful dish.
Well,
a lot of pot dishes in Japan.
And you're the Donabe queen, I like to say.
Well,
this is one of
Donabe.
Jane's many Donabe pots.
I love cooking in this pot. These pots, there's something about them. If you have guests, it really kind of gives it a festive mood. And if you are just serving it for your family, it's just really easy and it's fun to have on your tabletop.
So Grace is asking, or maybe mentioning and then asking, speaking of shoyu, my son gave me smoked shoyu and sakura shoyu. What can I do with those?
Well, those are really good to flavor certain kinds of food. I would take the smoked shoyu and I would try it on, for example, steak. You don't want to pour shoyu all over a good steak, but I think that it would enhance meat I think tofu too,
Mm.
would taste good with that smoky, kind of a smoky flavor.
Mm.
Maybe something like, if you love daikon like I do, I could see where it would be wonderful to take a nice big piece of daikon and have a smoky shoyu on that.
Mm.
Sakura shoyu is like something I would put on white fish.
White fish.
I think that's what comes to
Yeah,
mind.
kind of a floral,
Mhm.
savory. Yeah.
Like with a Thai or with halibut, something like that, sashimi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Grace, hopefully this gives you some ideas about what you can do with your shoyu. Yeah. And then Liz is asking maybe about the donabe pot.
Uh-huh.
We chose to use donabe pot
Yes.
for many reasons, but Liz is asking, does it retain the heat longer in the clay pot?
Yes, that's certainly one of the attributes and characteristics of good donabe. The earthenware does retain heat, especially like right now I'm touching it, it's really still
Yeah.
quite hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Rosemary is asking, can you use the donabe on a gas stove?
Yes,
Yeah, and I
this
think-
is a gas
Yeah.
cooktop. So it won't work on an induction burner.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. A lot of places now are going to electric,
Right.
and I think it's on an electric stove, it's harder to control too. Mhm.
And Liz is asking about cooking rice in a donabe.
Oh, yeah. Rice, there's a particular donabe that's available. There's several companies that make donabe for rice, but there's one in particular called Kamado-san, and it is double lidded. And the rice fluffs up and glistens when you open it. There's just something about donabe rice cooking that I hardly ever use an electric rice cooker at home. 2 and 3 cups of rice. It is so fast. You wash the rice, you let it sit, and then when you're ready, you turn the burner on. 3 cups of rice, 9 minutes later, it's bubbling. You turn the rice off. By the time you finish cooking your dinner, your rice
Wow.
is made, and it just tastes really good, especially if you buy nice rice.
That's a whole other cooking with care. Oh yeah, so Jessica had asked what kind of donabe would you make rice in? And so you what was that one you mentioned?
It's called the Komado-san, and you can find it online if you put donabe rice cooker. There's several. I have several, but you don't have to just use one particular donabe. You can make rice in this very same donabe that I just made the mizutaki in too. You just have to know that you have to be careful of the diameter in proportion to the amount of rice. So you don't want to spread your rice out too thin, right? You really want to pick a bowl or size of your donabe that's right for the amount of cups of rice you're cooking.
Oh, Jessica had found the product. So I think on
Mhm.
Toido, which I
Yes,
think you
yes, that's the one.
Okay, so Liz has a rice question for you.
Uh-oh.
On NHK, she said she saw that they strain the water out before cooking the rice. Is that a better technique? Maybe you're soaking it and then you strain it out?
I do.
Okay.
I don't necessarily wash my well, let's step back a second. When I wash rice, and when Japanese people typically wash rice, we don't rinse it in the pot we're going to cook it in. We wash it and soak it, and then when we're ready to cook the rice, we put it into the vessel and measure the water.
Oh.
Yeah, so you clean and wash it and rinse it, and then you can soak it, right? You want to soak it for about 20 minutes. And some people will go ahead and just because they want to be ready to turn the flame on,
Sure.
they will already have pre-measured the water.
Mhm.
But I always like to take that soaking water out
Okay.
because I want to be more accurate about the amount of water too.
Sure. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And don't, a lot of people want to scrub their rice so hard, they really feel like and you could maybe do it gently a couple of times for the first and second rinse, but really it's just about getting the white froth
Yeah.
off. And you don't want to break the kernels of your delicate rice. Yeah.
Okay. Liz is saying on this NHK special she watched that they put the rice into a bowl to dry before it went into the pot.
Pot.
Okay.
Mhm. I have done that too. I think minimally you should soak it 20 minutes.
Uh-huh.
If you have time to be able to dry it, it's nice to just let the rice wash and set, and the moisture just evaporates. And then when you're really cooking the rice, you get a more fluffy out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think we need a food scientist to tell us about the molecular levels of all this.
Uh-huh.
Well, Jane, it's been a wonderful conversation with you. I really enjoyed this. And thank you everyone who have asked questions. Really appreciate the questions as well.
We got lots of questions.
We did.
This time.
So the recipe did come with the email for today. We also put it in the chat. Maybe Lauren, if you could put the recipe in the chat one more time for folks who maybe joined a little bit later, that'd be wonderful. So to close things out today, we want to thank you all for joining us. And we hope that you feel maybe more confident in preparing this meal or a meal like this for your loved ones. We will be sending a follow-up email to you all with today's recipe and other helpful links. We will also send the recording for today with that email as well. If you enjoyed today's program and want to continue to support the growing needs of our community's older adults and caregivers, please consider making a gift today. Your support creates resources and opportunities to ensure not just a healthy, but a thriving community. Our programs team is putting support links for both Cato and JCCC in the box here. Cato's mission is to enhance the quality of life for older adults and caregivers in our community. By attending this program, we hope that your quality of life has been improved. And so thank you for attending.
Thank you, everyone. Please keep cooking.
Thank you all.